Well, good morning. This is our first morning at Mount Little Station and it's windy. It's not overly cold, but it's windy. Anyhow, the girls have gone on a hike to a gorge and me and Gary and Colin are going to go four-wheel driving on the Mount Little Track four-wheel driving loop. Now this is going to be interesting for me because I've never done anything like that before. So the first job I have to do is let the tyres down. I'm going down from 55 to 30 psi to give me a little bit more grip on all the rubbish. So I'll show you how I do that. Right, this is a new one for me, tyre deflators.
Yes, we went down a walk, a lot more pleasant than the drive, we thought. We went through the gorge. Most of the time it was dry, but we did find some wet bits. It was beautiful and the sky was gorgeous. Surprisingly, we didn't see any wildlife. I thought there's quite a bit of water in the gorge, and we were walking on the gorge bed.
Right, so it's Colin in front, me second and Gary third. And I've got the car in four-wheel drive locked high, not low Rob if you're watching, but high. We'll see how we go on. As you can see, it was a little bit bumpy on the road, but wasn't too stressful, although thirsty work from time to time. This was the first part of the track, and it was really more sand and dust and gravel than hardcore rocks, which we met later on the drive. Once we got to the summit, we stopped to do some photos.
And we could see them from the caravan.
Yeah, they were.
Just little dots.
So a few panoramic drone shots of the summit of Mount Little. Then what transpired to be the really difficult bit, which was the drive down the mountain loop. It was very rocky, so we had to take it really slowly. Gary and Colin took turns at guiding all three of us over the rocks, and I did most of the filming. We got to the bottom of the really steep bit. I let Gary and Colin drive ahead of me, and I put the Insta360 camera on its long pole mount and stuck it out of the sunroof of the van. And what you're seeing now is the effect of that. Spectacular, really. So the following day, we went to Wilpena Pond and did the 7-kilometre walk to the Wilpena Pond crater. Actually 7 kilometres return, I think. It was a very warm day. Lots of trees, Jill, weren't there?
Yeah, lots of trees.
Good practice for our Kings Canyon walk next week. It was really a beautiful walk. It was shaded, big gum trees everywhere, and lots of birds. Finally we got to the viewing platform.
Gonna sit down.
Yeah. And Jill was just about ready for a sit down as she came up here to be greeted by Jan. It's almost impossible to give you an idea on any sort of camera what the panoramic scope of this place is like.
Well, you could have done if you could have done the drone, but we can't fly the drone there.
Hi.
Hi.
Where are we, Jill?
I'm not quite sure now. We've walked all that way. I'm out of condition.
I believe we are at
Wilpena Pond.
Wilpena Pond. Yeah, Wilpena Pond Resort.
We've been here before. I don't think it was so difficult to walk up here.
No, everything's a bit more difficult this year than it was when we came, wherever we went last time.
Well, after last year, getting out the condition.
So we've come here with Jan and Gary, and Bridget. Colin stayed back at the caravan with the dogs to look after the dogs. So yeah, just as fivesome today. Those three hardy souls have gone to the higher viewing point, but we decided it was probably a good idea to let Jill have a rest here and not go any further.
And that's very kind of you.
We'll try and show you a little bit more footage of this whole Wilpena Pond area, both getting here and going back, and hope you enjoy it as much as we do. I think the walk back was a little bit easier than the walk there. Would you agree?
Possibly. I'm not going to commit myself.
So it got to the end of the day almost at Wilpena, and we decided to go to Razorback Lookout. We didn't realise that it was going to be another off-road track. Fairly horrendous off-road was the latter part of the drive. But once again, this is the Insta360 out of the sunroof.
This time I was holding.
Yeah, Jill was holding it.
Well, we both were, in fact. Steady.
Finally we stopped at the Valley Lookout before a short 1 kilometre drive to Razorback Lookout and its magnificent outlook. Just look at this photo that Jill took of Razorback Lookout. Okay, so this is Parachilna, what little you can see of it. This is the train station. I don't think it's an active train station any longer. Parachilna station. So this is the Outback Prairie Hotel in Parachilna, and it's closed. Opens at 11. Because we were early birds, it's 10:05. So there'll be no coffee for us this morning. So this is the Blinman Hotel and we're having Sunday lunch. What a great way to spend a Sunday. Beautiful, bumpy, dusty drive in. But yeah, Sunday lunch. And I know I haven't introduced you to everybody yet, and I'm going to do that more formally later, but that's Gary over there in the red cap, and that's Jan, and Bridget's being very bashful here on her own. And this is Mr. Collins, Mr. Man who fixed my bloody water after all those years. But I'll do a more formal introduction later. Right, well if this looks like Port Augusta and not the Oodnadatta track, that's because it is Port Augusta. So the plans have changed again. What happened, Jill?
The Stuart Highway is calling us.
The Stuart Highway is calling us. So this morning, when we drove down to Hawker, Colin noticed a leak on his auxiliary diesel tank. And it was quite a bad leak, so we decided
We changed plans.
We didn't want to find ourselves stranded on
Turn right onto Stuart Highway.
We didn't want to turn right onto the Stuart Highway. Here we go. So we didn't want to find ourselves stranded on the Oodnadatta track, so we decided the best option would be to come down here to Port Augusta and then back up to the Stuart Highway, so that hopefully he can get into Alice Springs too and get it repaired.
71 kilometres, continue straight on.
So now that Apple's finished talking to us, here we are, once again, for the third time in 3 years,
Stuart Highway.
heading north on the Stuart Highway.
We could cry, couldn't we? But never mind. We couldn't leave him on his own.
Yeah, it was much more, we were much more concerned about travelling together as a group rather than setting off on our own. So yeah, the Stuart Highway it is, and we're heading to Spuds Roadhouse again.
Again.